Well, this station was built in 1893. It replaced an older, smaller station that I believe was built in the 1850s on the Missouri Pacific Railroad was what ran on this line and owned the station. The station was renovated in 1941. So what you see now is basically what they did in 1949. Actually, or 1941, when the station was first built, there was a wall that went this direction when you walked in the front door. The men went to the left side and the women went to the right side. And then there was ticket windows on each side, so they were separate, totally separate. The restroom for the ladies is where it is now. The men had to go outside and go around to come into the men's restroom. But the station is unique. It's designed very well and it's held up very well. We still have all the original glass, the glass in the behind the desk there where the station agent sat at those windows. That's curved glass and you can see how it's a little shimmery. So it is all very old, and I think we've only had 1 or 2 panes ever broken. And they're planning on the renovation, I've heard, when they do this next summer. They're going to renovate the station. I believe they're going to leave the windows. They got looking at them and said, we don't want to take those out. So, yeah, and a lot of people drive the area and they find out this is one place they should go. Or if they've been out to the National Museum of Transport here in town, people tell them go see the train station. And what they're surprised is that it still serves passengers. So that makes it kind of unique. The city had to buy the station because when the Union Pacific took over the railroad from the Missouri Pacific, they didn't want the maintenance of the station. So I think they offered the city a good deal, and the city was very willing to take it, thinking, hey, we need to have this. It's on our logo. It kind of speaks for Kirkwood. And it does get rented out a lot for events. So it's very popular that way.
So hold on. So Kirkwood bought it from Amtrak. This was owned by
Actually,
Amtrak?
they bought it from the Union Pacific. And I mean, I'm thinking I've heard dirt cheap just because the Union Pacific, not needing it, we're going to level it. And Amtrak at that time thought, well, you know, we'd still like to have a stop there. That would be perfect for us, but we can't man it. So that's how the volunteer program started. And I think at one time, Bill Burkhalter, that manages all the volunteers, I think they had between 70 and 80 when they first started. So we're down some now, and we had some that didn't come back after COVID, but I know we have 3 or 4 new people that have just started the last couple of weeks. It's very neat, it's fun. I was always a train guy. So when we moved to town here and I knew this station was here, I was surprised it had a program like this where we could help passengers. And I'll tell you, 95+% of the people that come in the door are really friendly, nice to talk to. It's very rewarding. And I didn't know too many people when we moved here 9 years ago, so this was perfect for me. I knew it would be a good fit. renovation is going to be done starting next summer. Next spring, in April, I believe, Amtrak is putting in a new platform for each track 1 and 2. The reason being our platform is too low. So that's why we need the yellow stool, and there's still big steps in places. So it'll accommodate those new cars that lower their stairs automatically. They'll be at just the right height so you can step up into the cars. So that's going to be a big project, and then midsummer or so, it's supposed to be next summer, they'll start the renovation that supposedly will take between a year or 2, I think, before they're back in. So, but it'll be very historical restoration. It's going to look even better than it does now. Yeah, they can't add the full length of that copper roofed overhang that was on the station, because Kirkwood Road is a little wider now than it was when it was first built. So they are going to go about halfway out with it, and then we'll be using, since they're going to modernize the restrooms and enlarge them greatly, which they need, they'll be taking over the baggage room, which we use for storage. So they're going to build a new building down there for all our stuff to be stored, and the building really looks neat. I mean, it's going to be the same stone, it's going to have the same type roof on it, so it's going to blend in, I think, perfectly with the station. Won't look out of place. The station is very well built, and they said the foundation and the ground it's on is unbelievably solid. And when freights go by here, if a coal train goes by, you don't even feel vibration in here. You hear the noise, but the windows don't shake, and so it's very solidly built. Well, as I said, I always had an interest in trains. I finally, once I retired, about 10 years ago, I did start building a model layout because I had a large room over a garage to do that. And the railroad tracks, the house we bought here just happens to be, I always joke about it, but we're probably 70 yards from these tracks, and in our front door you can open it and see the trains going by. So fortunately, my wife said, hey, I like trains too, I'm good with that. So we ended up very close to the tracks, and this job just appealed to me to meet people. So once I got here, I realized that really 3/4 of the volunteers were always people that liked trains. So we all had things to talk about, and then I find out there are a lot of people my age who have retired come to the counter, and they've always had an interest in trains. So I'm always trying to get volunteers to say, hey, you ought to do it here. If you can get along with people, you get to see trains, you should be happy here. The amazing thing is, I'm glad you asked that, because grandfathers show up with their grandsons. Well, that's like it was when I was growing up. And they all say, you know, oh, my grandson, he's just got to come and see the trains. He'd sit here all afternoon, you know, to see trains. So I'm glad that that hasn't changed. You would kind of think with everything else there is with these young kids, even your generation, I would think, boy, it's still neat that they like trains. Something about trains, I think it's the size and noise.
I had a guy that like teaching at the University of Oregon. He took some days off and took us around. And then we went to Portland, got on the LCNS.
No, I didn't. No, I'm not.
You know, I think I would have to say what I've enjoyed a lot are the 2 or 3 times that they've done a lot of major track work, where they brought along the 16 big pieces of machinery that pull the spikes out, lift the rails back up, they cut the rails. If they're replacing a rail, they put them back in, they weld them together. They have machines that push all the rock and ballast and shake it under the track to get it solid under there. They adjust the height, and they're constantly measuring the distance between the tracks. It's really fun to watch. They bring a large crew and everybody's got their job. The signalmen have to unhook all those little fine wires that attach to the rails that cause these signals here to go down when a train approaches, and the train signals that they're looking at. So it's interesting to sit here and watch what they do and talk to the people that are doing it. The last crew that worked when they replaced ties here, they replaced every 3rd tie roughly. And that takes a long time. So they're around, you know, for a few weeks, kind of get to know them when you're talking to them. But that crew came out of Houston, Texas. So they come a long ways, and then they work that period of time, and then they go home and are off a few days, and then they're sent somewhere else to work. So I think that would probably be what I enjoyed watching and spending time. I even came down when I wasn't volunteering just to see how they were doing and chat. So, yeah.
Amazing.